The transport shuttle jerked violently as it docked with the prison ship Eternal Night. Sienna Cross pressed her forehead against the cold metal wall, trying to steady her breathing. Her ribs still ached from the beating the guards had given her 3 days ago. Blood had dried in her dark hair, matting it against her scalp. The energy cuffs around her wrists hummed with a frequency that made her teeth hurt. She had been a combat medic with the Colonial Defense Corps, stationed on Harmony Station when the hegemony attack came. While others ran for the evacuation pods, Sienna stayed behind to treat the wounded. She pulled 17 people from burning wreckage before the enemy soldiers found her. They called her a terrorist for defending her home. Now she was being transferred to the worst prison in known space. The shuttle door hissed open. 2 guards, both from the insectoid Chitauri species, grabbed her arms with their sharp pincers. They dragged her through corridors that smelled of recycled air and despair. Other prisoners watched from behind force fields as she passed. Their faces showed every emotion except hope. The guards stopped at a massive door marked with symbols in dozens of languages. All of them meant the same thing: extreme danger. One guard pressed his claw against a scanner. The door groaned as it slid open, revealing darkness beyond. "Welcome to your new home, human," the guard chittered in broken common tongue. "Try not to die too quickly. We have bets running." They shoved her inside. Sienna stumbled forward, her legs weak from days in the cramped shuttle. The door slammed shut behind her with a boom that shook the air. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in dim red glow. The cell was enormous, at least 60 meters across. The walls were scarred metal, covered in scratches and burn marks. The ceiling disappeared into shadows high above. But what caught Sienna's attention was the creature chained to the far wall. It was massive, easily 20 meters from its horned head to its spiked tail. The body was covered in scales that shifted between deep crimson and molten gold, like metal cooling after being forged. 2 wings stretched along the wall, each one held by 3 separate chains. The wings were translucent, showing delicate bone structure underneath, and they caught the light in ways that hurt to look at directly. 4 powerful legs ended in claws that had carved deep furrows in the metal floor. The head was angular and proud, with 3 horns curving back from the skull. Eyes like burning coals watched Sienna without blinking. Steam rose from the creature's nostrils with each breath. A Paraxian. Sienna had only seen them in historical archives. Everyone believed they had been wiped out decades ago during the hegemony expansion wars. This one bore scars across its scales, some old and faded, others still raw. The chains around its neck, legs, and wings were covered in warning runes that glowed faintly with suppression technology. Speakers crackled to life somewhere in the walls. Laughter echoed through the cell. The guards were watching, waiting for the show. Sienna had heard stories about these execution cells, prisoners thrown in with dangerous beasts for entertainment. Most lasted minutes. Sienna forced herself to stand straight despite the pain. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her afraid. She moved slowly to the nearest wall and sat down, keeping her eyes on the Paraxian but not staring directly. Her grandfather had taught her about wild animals back on Earth. Direct eye contact meant challenge. Looking away meant fear. The key was respectful awareness. The Pyraxian made no sound. It simply watched her with those burning eyes. Hours passed in silence. Sienna counted her heartbeats to keep track of time. The pain in her ribs gradually shifted from sharp to dull. Her throat was dry, but she refused to show weakness by asking for water. When the food slot finally opened, a tray slid through. 1 protein bar, 1 cup of water. Barely enough to keep a human alive. Sienna took the tray and stared at the meager rations. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but her eyes drifted to the Paraxian. Those magnificent chains, those wounds that oozed infection. How long since this creature had been shown any kindness? Sienna made a decision that would change everything. She broke the protein bar in half, ate her portion quickly, then stood. The Paraxian's eyes tracked her movement. She walked slowly across the cell, stopping about 7 meters away from the creature. Close enough to reach, but far enough to retreat. She placed half the protein bar on the floor, then walked backward to her wall. She sat down and drank her water in small sips to make it last. The Paraxian stared at the food for a long time. Its nostrils flared, testing the air for poison or tricks. Finally, it extended its long neck and used its forked tongue to pull the food closer. It ate slowly, deliberately, never taking its eyes off Sienna. When night cycle came and the lights dimmed further, Sienna curled up against the wall. Every muscle ached. Her mind replayed the attack on Harmony Station, the faces of people she could not save. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes, but she made no sound. She heard movement in the darkness, the clink of chains. When she opened her eyes, the Pyraxian had shifted position. It was no longer pressed against the far wall. The distance between them had shrunk by half. Those burning eyes reflected the emergency lights like twin stars. Sienna held her breath. This could be the end. But the Pyraxian simply settled into its new position and closed its eyes. After a moment, Sienna did the same. In the darkness of their shared prison, two beings from different worlds spent their first night together, neither knowing that this simple act of sharing would ignite a friendship that would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. 7 days passed before the Pyraxian spoke. Sienna had fallen into a rhythm of survival that kept her mind from breaking. Each morning when the food slot opened, she would divide her rations and place half near the dragon. She exercised in careful movements to keep her body strong despite the limited space. Sometimes she talked aloud, sharing stories about Earth and the patients she had saved during her years as a medic. The Pyraxian listened to everything. Those burning eyes followed her movements with intelligence that went far beyond animal instinct. Sienna noticed details during those quiet days. The way the creature's scales dulled when it was in pain. How its breathing changed rhythm when the guards spoke through the speakers. This was no mindless beast. This was a person trapped in a body that others feared. On the 7th night, Sienna woke to a sound she had not heard before. Whimpering, soft and low, like wind through broken glass. She sat up and saw the Pyraxian's body trembling. The chains around its legs had worn through the scales completely now. Infection spread in dark lines from the wounds, and fever made the creature's scales glow with unnatural heat. Sienna knew infection. She had seen it kill soldiers 3 times the size of normal humans. Left untreated, even this magnificent being would die slowly and painfully. She stood and approached carefully, moving in the way she had learned over the past week. Slow steps, open hands, respectful distance. The Pyraxian's head lifted. Steam hissed from its nostrils. A warning growl rumbled from deep in its chest like grinding stone. But Sienna did not stop. She knelt beside the infected leg, close enough now to feel the heat radiating from the creature's body. "I know it hurts," Sienna said softly. "I want to help. Will you let me?" The Pyraxian stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly it lowered its head and went still. Permission granted. Sienna tore strips from her prison uniform, which was already mostly rags. She had been saving water from her daily rations in the cup, letting it accumulate. Now she used that precious liquid to wet the cloth. Working with gentle hands, she cleaned the wounds as best she could. The Pyraxian flinched once but made no move to stop her. "My name is Sienna," she said as she worked. "Sienna Cross. I was a medic before they took me. Helping people is what I do." The Pyraxian's voice was like volcanic rock grinding together, rough from decades of disuse. "I am called Emberwing. Last of the Pyraxian flight clans. Last of my kind." Sienna's hands paused. "I'm sorry. I heard about the wars. About what the hegemony did to your worlds. They feared us," Emberwing said. "Feared our fire. Feared our flight. Feared that we would not kneel. So they hunted us across the stars. My mate, my children, my entire clan, all turned to ash and bone. I alone survived because they wanted one of us alive, a trophy, a warning to others who might resist." Tears blurred Sienna's vision as she finished cleaning the wounds. "How long have you been here?" 40 cycles of your Earth years. I have watched stars die through the viewports. I have seen thousands of prisoners come and go. Most die, some go mad. A few escape, but never from this cell. This cell is where they put those they want to break completely." Sienna sat back on her heels. "Then we'll be the first to break out of it." Emberwing made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "You are brave, Sienna Cross, or foolish. The chains that bind me were forged in neutron star cores. The door is sealed with quantum locks. The guards are armed with weapons that can vaporize flesh. Even if we somehow open that door, we would face 3,000 soldiers between here and the escape pods." "I don't care about odds," Sienna said firmly. "I care about what's right. You don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be here. And I refuse to die in this cell without trying." Over the following days, they began to plan in whispers during the night cycles, when the monitoring systems went to low power mode. Emberwing knew the ship's routines from 4 decades of observation. He explained the guard shift changes, the maintenance schedules, the power fluctuations that happened every 37 hours when the reactors cycled. Sienna shared everything she knew about human tactics and improvisation. She explained how her people turned weaknesses into strengths, how they used psychology and misdirection to overcome superior forces. Together, they began to see possibilities where before there had only been walls. 2 weeks into their planning, the cell door opened unexpectedly. Warden Cross entered with 4 heavily armed guards. Cross was a Zentari, a species known for their cruelty. His scaled skin was midnight blue and his eyes held no mercy. He had personally overseen the extinction of 3 species during his career. "The human has made our dragon soft," Cross said in his hissing voice. "This is unacceptable. We need entertainment." The guards activated shock batons and moved toward Emberwing. They drove the weapons into the infected wounds, sending electricity through the dragon's body. Emberwing roared in agony, thrashing against the chains. The sound shook the entire cell. Sienna moved without thinking. She threw herself at the nearest guard, using a combat move she had learned years ago. She swept his legs and grabbed the shock baton as he fell. Before the others could react, she jammed the weapon into the second guard's knee joint, dropping him. Cross drew a plasma pistol and aimed it at Sienna's head. "Foolish human. Now you die." "Wait," Emberwing's voice cut through the chaos. "I will cooperate. I will fight in your arena. I will do whatever you want. Just don't harm her." Cross smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "How touching. The mighty Paraxian begs for a human's life. Perhaps there is entertainment value in this after all." He holstered his weapon. "You have 3 days to recover, Dragon. Then you fight in the grand arena for the crew's amusement, and the human will watch from the stands. If you refuse or fail to entertain us, I will kill her slowly while you watch." They left, dragging the injured guards with them. The door sealed shut once more. Sienna rushed to Emberwing's side. The shock wounds had reopened the infections. She used the last of her saved water to clean them again, working with shaking hands. "You should not have protected me," Emberwing said quietly. "Now we both will suffer." "We protect each other," Sienna replied. "That's what friends do." Emberwing's burning eyes softened. "Friend? I have not had a friend in 40 years. I had forgotten what the word meant. "Then let me remind you," Sienna said. "Friends don't give up on each other. Friends find a way, and we're going to find our way out of here together." That night, as Sienna slept against Emberwing's warm scales, the Paraxian made a silent vow. This human had shown him kindness when the galaxy had shown only cruelty. She had treated his wounds when others celebrated his pain. She had called him friend when everyone else called him monster. Whatever happened in 3 days, Emberwing would make sure Sienna Cross survived. Even if it cost him his life, he would see her fly free among the stars. The day of the arena fight arrived with the rumble of machinery above their cell. Sienna woke to the sound of hydraulics as sections of the ceiling retracted, revealing a vast open space above them. Bright lights flooded down, temporarily blinding her. She heard the roar of thousands of voices. The crew had gathered for the spectacle. Guards entered the cell wearing full combat armor. They kept their weapons trained on Emberwing, while a tech specialist approached the dragon's chains with a control device. One by one, the restraints unlocked with heavy clanks that echoed through the space. Emberwing had not stood freely in 40 years. His legs trembled as he rose to his full height, wings unfurling for the first time in decades. 2 guards grabbed Sienna and dragged her toward an anti-gravity lift that would take her to the viewing stands. She fought against them, screaming Emberwing's name, but it was useless. The last thing she saw before the lift activated was Emberwing's burning eyes watching her disappear upward. The arena was a massive spherical chamber at the heart of the prison ship. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species packed the viewing platforms that ringed the space. They cheered and placed bets, treating the coming violence as entertainment. Sienna was chained to a seat in Warden Cross's private box, forced to watch. Below, Emberwing stood alone in the center of the arena. His scales caught the harsh lights shimmering between crimson and gold. Despite 40 years of imprisonment, despite the infected wounds and weakened muscles, he stood with dignity. A warrior facing his fate without fear. Cross leaned close to Sienna, his breath reeking of sulfur. "Your friend will fight 5 of our champion gladiators. Battle-trained, heavily armed. If he survives 10 minutes, I might let you both live another day. If he dies quickly, well, you'll join him soon enough. 5 massive doors around the arena opened. Out stepped creatures that made Sienna's blood run cold. A Crothian berserker, standing 4 meters tall with armor plates covering its body, a Vexian blade dancer, moving on 6 legs with razor-sharp appendages, a Thorian crusher whose fists could shatter steel, a Nexian mind ripper with psychic abilities that could drive beings insane, and worst of all, a Zynthian war machine, half organic and half cybernetic, designed only to kill. The crowd's roar reached deafening levels as the 5 champions advanced on Emberwing from all sides. Sienna pulled against her chains until her wrists bled, screaming for them to stop, but her voice was lost in the noise. Then something unexpected happened. The arena's lights flickered. Once, twice. Darkness fell for 3 seconds before emergency lighting kicked in. Sienna felt a strange vibration through the floor. She glanced at a viewport and saw something that made her heart leap. A solar storm. The dead star the prison orbited was having one of its periodic eruptions. The electromagnetic pulse was interfering with the ship's systems. Emberwing felt it too. The suppression field that had kept his fire dormant for 40 years wavered. Power flooded back into his body, ancient and terrible and magnificent. His scales blazed with inner light. His eyes became twin suns, and from deep in his chest came a sound that had not been heard in the galaxy for decades. The war cry of a Pyraxian. The 5 champions attacked as one. The Crothian charged with a battle hammer that could crush stone. Emberwing met the charge head-on, catching the hammer in his jaws and snapping it like a twig. His claws opened the berserker's armor like paper. The Vexian blade dancer leaped for his wings, but Emberwing twisted midair with impossible grace and caught the creature in his tail, slamming it into the arena wall. The Thorian crusher and the Nexian mind ripper attacked together. The mind ripper sent psychic daggers into Emberwing's consciousness, trying to paralyze him with fear and pain. But Emberwing had endured 40 years of torture. His mind was iron-forged in suffering. He shrugged off the mental assault and breathed fire for the first time in 4 decades. The flames were not red or orange. They were white-hot plasma that turned the air itself into light. The Thorian crusher's armor melted. The Nexian mind ripper's psychic screams cut off as its body turned to ash. The Zynthian war machine charged through the flames, its cybernetics protecting it from the heat. It raised an arm cannon and fired directly at Emberwing's chest. The explosion would have killed any normal creature, but Emberwing was Pyraxian, forged in the hearts of dying stars. He caught the war machine's arms in his claws and pulled. Metal screamed. Circuits sparked. With a final heave, Emberwing tore the machine in half. Silence fell over the arena. The crowd stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. 5 champions defeated in less than 3 minutes. Then the solar storm hit the ship directly. Every system went haywire. Lights exploded. Force fields collapsed. Doors opened randomly throughout the prison. Chaos erupted as prisoners realized they were no longer restrained. Emberwing's eyes found Sienna in the viewing box. Their gazes locked. Understanding passed between them in an instant. Now, this was their chance. Emberwing launched himself upward with powerful beats of his wings. The suppression field was completely down now. He could fly again. He crashed through the reinforced glass of Cross's viewing box, sending debris everywhere. Guards fired plasma rifles, but the shots bounced off his scales. Sienna felt her chains snap as Emberwing's claws sliced through them with surgical precision. He grabbed her gently in one foreclaw, cradling her against his chest where she would be protected. Cross drew a blade and lunged at Sienna, but Emberwing's tail swept the warden aside, sending him crashing into the far wall. "Hold tight," Emberwing said. Then he dove. They plummeted down through the arena, gaining speed. Emberwing's wings snapped open at the last second, catching air and redirecting their momentum. He flew through the corridors of the prison ship, navigating by instinct and 40 years of memorized patterns. Alarms blared. Automated defenses activated. Turrets fired explosive rounds that Emberwing dodged with breathtaking agility. Sienna clung to his scales, her heart hammering in her chest. They burst through a hangar bay door and into the launch area. Dozens of small craft sat ready, but Emberwing ignored them all. He flew directly toward the main blast doors, gathering speed. "Those doors are solid titanium," Sienna shouted over the wind. "You can't break through." "I am Pyraxian," Emberwing replied. "We do not break. We burn." He opened his jaws and released every bit of fire he had held inside for 40 years. The white-hot plasma cut through the doors like a laser through ice. Metal melted and peeled away. The vacuum of space howled on the other side. They shot through the opening into the void. Behind them, the prison ship Eternal Night erupted in secondary explosions as systems failed throughout. Sirens screamed, but Emberwing was already beyond weapon range, flying on wings that had dreamed of stars through decades of darkness. Sienna looked back at the dying prison ship, then up at the infinite expanse of space above them. She started laughing. Tears streamed down her face as the laughter turned to sobs of relief and joy. They had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, they had escaped. Emberwing flew toward a nebula in the distance, its colors swirling like cosmic paint. Where do we go now, my friend? Sienna wiped her eyes and smiled. Anywhere, everywhere, we're free, Emberwing. For the first time in 40 years, you're free. We are free, Emberwing corrected, and we will stay free together. The galaxy branded us criminals. Let them, we know the truth. We know what we are. And what are we? Sienna asked. Emberwing's voice rumbled with pride and warmth. We are friends. We are survivors. We are proof that kindness is stronger than chains, that friendship is mightier than fear, and that even in the darkest prisons, hope can take flight. They flew into the nebula, two souls bound by unbreakable friendship, heading toward unknown stars and infinite possibilities. Behind them, the old life burned away. Ahead, a new story waited to be written among the constellations. Together, there was nothing they could not face. Together, they were truly home.